Hey guys, Chris from Provo Beast Audio Installation, and in today's video, we're going to be installing a 5-channel amplifier on this 2007 Toyota Camry. Now in this install, we're going to integrate this amplifier to the factory JBL sound system and integrate it also to an aftermarket radio. Let's get started. Alright, so here at the bench, the parts that we're going to use for install, these are just some of them to get us started. First and foremost is the amplifier we chose to go with. It's an N-Series 5-channel amplifier by NVX. It's the NDA501, brand new N-Series amplifier that's recently released here a few months back. Now to get this installed, we need a wiring kit. We're going to go with this Scar Audio 4-channel OFC wiring kit. It does up to 1500 watts RMS. Also includes your RCAs, fuse and fuse holder, all your speaker wire, everything that you'll need. Since this only comes with 2 channels of RCAs, we picked up an additional set of 4 channels. We have some 9-wire. Now this wire specifically has all your speaker wire colors in it. And then finally, because we have the JBL amplified sound system that we are replacing, we picked up these amplifier bypass harnesses. Now these aren't actually made for JBL whatsoever. What we've done is we've found similar ones that we can link down in the description, and we've already modified the pinning on these to make work. We'll spend some extensive time here in this video showing how to repin these harnesses and what pin goes where and what wire goes where, so you can easily tap into the output of the old JBL amplifier to send all your new 5-channel amplified signal from our NVX amp. So first thing we need to do is test fit our amplifier. We're going to go underneath the passenger front seat and get everything planned out so we can start running some wire. Alright, so we have the seat back here, and we've been test fitting this amp. This amp is huge, and a lot of the time with 5-channel amplifiers you can expect some size, but this one's really big for a 5-channel. There's a lot smaller ones on the market, so we got creative. We've already pulled out the JBL amp, and here's the plugs that were off the JBL amplifier. Got those all disconnected and up and out of the way. Now for our vent, we actually took a heat gun to it and bent and molded it to fit up and over so we don't smash it with the amplifier. And this allows the amp now to sit flat, and the heat and the AC will go up and over the amplifier instead of getting trapped up underneath. Now this amp is actually in place really tight. It fits this. It's about the biggest amplifier that we can fit under the seat, so we don't necessarily need to build a whole amp mounting system because it's basically wedged underneath the vent and in here. It's not really going to go anywhere. This is a good place to start. Now with these wires here, we have our 3 connections and the ground for the JBL amplifier. Generally this white plug has your grounds, which are your 2 browns here, and this is all your speaker outputs. This is the rear decks 6x9s and the door 6x9s. And then this blue plug has your powers in it and your tweeters. So this has your dash tweeters and your rear deck tweeters if you have the JBL. So since we have those, we found harnesses on Amazon that plug into those. Now, like I said, they're not meant for the JBL system because they're pinned wrong. So what we did is we went ahead and did our research to figure out what wire color does what here, and that allowed us to identify how we can repin these harnesses to fit for our needs. So essentially these are all pinned for door speakers and rear deck, and these ones are pinned now for our tweeters. Now of course there are 2 constants here, even though there's a red and a yellow wire. And then we have 2 grounds over on this one that powered our JBL amplifier. There is a remote turn on. It's on the smaller harness that we're not going to be using. And it's right here. It's this gray pin on the very end. Now this is generally your speaker signal input from the radio. And these are your outputs and power and ground for the amplifier. We don't need this whatsoever because we're going to be running RCAs from an aftermarket radio up in the dash. And so we won't need this, and we're going to run our own remote turn-on wire. We will reground this in case that has to be regrounded. We'll find a place to ground this. But other than that, we've gotten this all repinned. So let's head over to the bench. We're going to show you what each wire does and how we repinned it here to make this work for application. Now, before we started this video, we did a ton of prep in order to make this a lot easier for you guys to follow. How we identified our wiring here is we essentially hooked up a test tone and found what wires went where down using that these harnesses here, and then we used a polarity test and found what's positive and negative. So what we've done is identified every single wire within those two harnesses that we need to use for our aftermarket amplifier. These are our notes, but I'm going to put this up on the screen here for you to make it a lot easier for you to go and wire it yourself. So just a quick review after you've seen that there. We have two areas of tweeters. Again, remember in that smaller blue harness where this guy will plug into, you have your dash tweeters and your rear deck tweeters. Again, this is only if you have the JBL. And then the bigger of the harnesses, where this one will plug into, has your rear deck 6x9s and your front door 6x9. And the way that we repin these harnesses, essentially here we pulled out all the pins. Now you can pick up your own pin tools, which we can link in the description, but what we need to do is pull out these pins and we need to release the pin mechanism. Stick that all the way in there, lift that up, and that pops on out. Again, what we're doing is lifting up a little plastic tab, just like so, and allows this little position to slip on out past that little locking tab. And so we pulled out all the pins from our harnesses and we've now stuck it in to the corresponding spots. Now looking here at this harness where it will plug in, based on our research here, 6 pins, 2 in the center, and then 4 pins. So on the 6-pin side, looking at the wire side of this harness adapter, we have our front left door speakers. Then we have the center pins is our front right door speakers. Then we have our rear left deck speaker 6x9 and rear right deck speaker 6x9. And again, we have then the 2 grounds, which were browns. And then on this side, these are our 2 positives on this. Again, looking at the harness side, we have our front right tweeter on the dash. We have our front left tweeter on the dash. We have our rear left tweeter in the rear deck. And we have our rear right tweeter in the rear deck. So that's how these are all pinned. And again, this will all be down in the description as well as in the video, so you know how to repin and what wire goes where. So without further ado, at this point of time with our harness all done, and you can see that we've already marked this all up. This is tweeter harness, and this is for our doors and rear deck speakers. These are ready to go. Grab some 9-wire. Now our speaker outputs from our amplifier don't have to go very far. So essentially, we've put some ferrule ends. This will go from the output of the amplifier, and since the connection to all our speakers is right by the amp, we only needed a short run of that 9-conductor cable. And then this end, what we're going to do is essentially solder it in. Now we're not running any special crossovers to our tweeters at all, just because they already have their own inline crossovers closer to the speaker. So what we'll do is we'll combine the tweeters and our mid-ranges within this connection, and we'll show you what that looks like. But essentially we're going to be sending full range signal to all the speakers because they have their own passive crossovers built in. So at this point, what we're going to do is start soldering this up. We're going to prep our output harness, and then we'll turn our attention over to our power and ground and RCAs and start running those in the vehicle as well. Alright, so we made those connections. So like I said, we're sending just the amplified signal of our amplifier to every speaker because each speaker already has its crossover, so we can send a full range everywhere. So we took both the tweeter and the mid-range of each color in our harness adapter. We just added them together, so purple stripe, and then purple with the stripe. We just connected those all in, just like so. Everything will get the same signal from the amplifier output through these harnesses. Now at this point of time, we can move our heat shrink up and over these connections, and we'll shrink them down with a heat gun. All right, so we have our speaker wire output harness ready to go. This end plugs into the speaker outputs of our amplifier, all each color coded. Whites are front left, grays are front right, greens are rear left, purples are rear right. And the one with the stripe is the negative. Last will connect to the speaker output terminals of the amplifier, go through this short run. We solder it in, and it's going to send each of those signals to the vehicle because we're using the factory JBL wiring to make those connections happen. So we don't have to run new wiring everywhere in the vehicle. Now, if you don't have the factory JBL sound system, you don't have to worry about this because there's generally not an amp underneath the seat. And all you need to do is instead connect your 9-wire conductor cable to the harness adapter back behind the radio, because that harness adapter has all the speakers that'll go to your doors and dash tweeters and everything like that anyways. And here's an example of the wiring harness adapter I'm talking about. This end generally plugs into the harness back behind the radio, the factory harnesses. You just don't connect your speaker wires from the radio side, and instead your whites, greens, grays, and purples you'll connect into your 9-conductor cable that'll go into these harnesses to the rest of the speakers. So that's your alternate if you don't have the factory JBL sound system. So with this harness done, we can put this off to the side and now start running power wire from the battery through an inline fuse to the underseat area, ground, which will create a ground up underneath that seat, and our RCA cables. Alright, so here is our battery. It's on the driver's side here in the front corner. When we pull this off, that is the stud that we're going to connect our power wire to for the amplifier. We'll put our inline fuse around this area as well, probably build a little fuse mount that will bolt up to the battery anchor itself. Then we'll run our power wire probably through a grommet back deep inside there, which we can easily access from the inside of the car. So we're going to start mapping our wiring location there and locate our grommet. All right, so we're here underneath the steering column and we found our firewall access. Right up through there is where our main harness goes through, as you can see there. Now we poked a hanger through the soft outside, staying clear away from the wiring itself, but what we're going to do is we poke this through all the way to the other side. We prepped our wire here. We've taped our wire there and we've started lubing up so with some soap and water so it's nice and slippery, and then we're going to go on the other end and start pulling it through. So this is where that comes on out. Going to see right down that grommet. So we're going to pull it from the engine side. So we pulled our wire through, as you saw. We ran it along there, zip tying it. Now we built a fuse holder here, and it basically gets sandwiched underneath the battery bracket. Also snags the battery nut and stud there, and it's nice and sturdy. And then we mounted our fuse holder to that piece of ABS plastic. So that's all done, and now we have the end that'll connect to the positive post of the battery once we're all good to go. We went in and split loomed everything, zip tied, it's all nice and clean. At this point, we can now go to the other end and start running it over to the passenger side under the seat. Alright, so we finally got the amp in here and we started making our connections. So we got our power and ground all in there. Obviously you saw us put on some ferrules, added our 5-channel output and a remote turn on wire and our sub-channel output as well. That's all there. Got our RCAs in there, super tight fit. Everything runs up to the center console at this point. We'll need to make our connections at the radio. So we're going to reinstall our vent, and really we're done underneath the seat here. We still need to run our sub wire to the trunk, But now we need to turn our attention over to the center console to make our final connection. All right, so we fed our RCAs up into the dash here through that center console. Now, if you want to see how we took apart this center console, it's pretty straightforward. We actually go through that in very great detail when we install the aftermarket radio. Once that center console has been removed and we pull our RCAs up through, we'll connect them to our radio, and we'll connect the remote turn-on wire to the blue-white wire of our radio. And that's about it for the connections of our amplifier. Now we just need to get the radio back on in. So we got it snapped into place here, hooked up our HVAC controls. Perfect. All right, and all our speakers are working great. Now at this point of time, since we verified everything's working, we got the radio, we got USB working, let's go ahead and continue reassembling the dash. All right, so with the positive and negative done on the amplifier, we went ahead and made our connection here. We got it all hooked up. Everything's nice and secure. And at this point of time, we're gonna shut the hood. Okay, so we got everything all reassembled and connected here. All our connections are good to go. Cool thing is we can disconnect our speakers as we do our tuning. Now we've already set our gains with an SMD DD1, so they're perfectly set to the aftermarket radio there. And we'll just clean up our wiring just a bit here, but it barely fits in there. That is a huge amp for the wattage it puts out, but hey, it's a 5-channel and it's gonna run the whole system, and it actually fits under the seat. Our little vent mod, you saw us all bent up, but it actually works and blows air and it clears the seat, and that's what's important. So at this point of time, with our gains all set and everything tuned on the amplifier, we can go ahead and bolt the seat back down. That's about it for this install. If you like what you saw, be sure to hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe. We post great content on the channel all the time. Also, if you want to see how we did the radio install or front speakers, rear speakers, we even did a backup camera, check the description. We have a ton of links for different videos on the specific model year Camry. Thanks again for watching, and we will see you in the next video.